Welcome back to another camera channel. Today, we're going to be talking about how to achieve this lighting setup right here. In this video, I'm going to aim to show you how you can achieve this look at different price points. So we're going to use an SL60W from Godox. We're going to use an Aputure 120D Mark II, an Aputure 300D Mark II, and just for fun, a 600D Pro from Aputure, of course. Spoiler alert, they all pretty much look the same, but using more powerful lights gives you more flexibility in terms of camera settings and situations that you may be shooting in. So currently I'm using a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. I'm shooting at f4 and at ISO 400, which is like the native ISO on the lower range. And I'm using a Sigma 50 to 100 f1.8. And I'm not shooting at f1.8, I'm shooting at f4. Personally, because I like that there's less depth of field. I don't have anything in the background anyway, it's just a plain paper background. But using f4, at least it gives me some flexibility to move around without me going completely out of focus. It just helps shooting at something like f4. So to show you how to set all this up, it's best that I give you a little tour around and show you the equipment and then show you the placement. I'll try and make a diagram as well on the screen that you can follow along if you wanted to completely recreate this. There's quite a lot of equipment used in these setups, but you can substitute them for different things if you don't have them or if you think they're too expensive to buy. I'm going to try and talk about that as we're going around. So let's get started. Here's what it looks like from my perspective. We've got the key light, which is currently an Aputure 300D Mark II. We have a bounce acting as a fill, which is this 5-in-1 reflector from Neewer. Behind me, I have a hair light, which is a Nangwang RGB 88. And background light, we have this Aputure Nova P300C. Looking at this diagram, you can see that my shooting space is kind of on the large size. And that's because I'm trying to fill the full field of view of the lens at 50mm with the background, which is a 2.8 meter wide paper backdrop. Don't worry if your space isn't as deep as this. I could easily have the background closer to me, or even use a wider lens and move the camera closer. This is just how I set up my videos personally. Starting with a key light, which is a 300D Mark II at 50%. It's on this Kupo High Cine stand on the Kupo KC100S casters with an Avenger D600 boom arm. You don't have to use a rolling stand or a boom arm. I do so for convenience, but you could easily have this just on a C-stand. I recommend Kupo C-stands. In front of the 300D Mark II is a Celens 42-inch softbox. I like this one because it's large and also quite shallow, allowing it to take up less room. It's about 45 degrees to my left and is tilted downwards about 45 degrees as well. I'm using this black solid cutter to stop the key light from spilling onto the background, and it's placed as close to the edge of frame as possible. If you don't have a black solid cutter, you could use cardboard, other types of fabric, literally anything to stop the light from going behind you. Here's what the shot would look like with just the key light. It looks very strong without any fill, so that's the next step. Instead of using a second light for the fill, I'm using this 5-in-1 reflector from Neewer. This is the 1 meter size, I believe, and it's been held up by a C-stand with a hook attachment. This is positioned just out of the shot to my right, slightly facing towards me to help wrap the bounce light around my face. You can kind of see it reflected in my eyes. Moving the reflector closer or further away will affect how much light is being bounced back and will change the contrast ratio. If you want the ratio to be more even, then bring it closer to you. If you want it more moody and contrasty, move it away. The cool thing about using a reflector is that the contrast ratio always stays the same if the light and reflector don't move. Increasing the power of the light also increases how much light is being bounced. Less power equals less bounce. So for example, if you're happy with the contrast ratio, but your background light isn't strong enough, like it's maxed out at 100%, you could change your camera settings to get your background brighter and then adjust your key light accordingly. Your background can get brighter without affecting the contrast ratio on your face. Here's the shot with the key light and with the bounce fill from the reflector. For the hair light, I'm using this Nangwang RGB 88. It's a Light 1 style light and does RGB as well as CCT light ranges. I don't think this is actually made anymore, but you could use a Yongnuo YN362 or 3, or any tube light or smaller LED light fixture like an Aputure MC or something like that. As long as it's not visible in the shot, it should be fine. This light is set at 66% and it's on this Kupo C-stand and arm. If you prefer it without the hair light, feel free to skip this light entirely. It's totally up to you. My background is this grey coloured 2.8 meter paper backdrop, and to light it, I'm using an Aputure Nova P300C. This is definitely a premium light. It's going to be out of a lot of people's price ranges, and you can see why. It's only at 7.1%. You can definitely swap this out for other lights. You could use more Light One style lights, or something like this Sansi outdoor floodlight from Amazon. These won't have the range of colors and options like a more expensive light would, but if you're looking for just a flood of simple colors, then it's a great budget option. Here's what the shot looks like with the Aputure Nova, and with the Sansi alternative. I've put the light on these Apple boxes to get it more parallel with the backdrop. If it gets any higher, it will become visible in the shot behind me. It's not the prettiest of solutions, but it works. Looking at a false color helps you picture the exposure of the image and is one of my favorite features of Blackmagic cameras. This salmon color is the ideal exposure range for certain skin types. This is how my final image looks with the false color turned on. The background exposure is just around this point here. As promised, here is the same shot with differently priced lights. The power percentage used on the key light and the camera settings are displayed on the screen. All the links for the products mentioned in this video will be in the description box below, and they will be affiliate links, so if you do want to purchase any of these, using the links provided will actually help me out and the channel out. Thanks again for watching this video. I hope that it was useful. If it was, consider subscribing and hit that like button so I know what you guys want to see, and if I can make more of these, I will try with different lighting setups, maybe look into interview setups as well, because that's a big part of the work that I usually do outside of YouTube. So if you want to see more of that, comment below as well, and hopefully I'll see you next time.